Welcome back, everybody. In this class, we're going to be learning how to express want in Japanese. There are two main ways that we can talk about wanting things in Japanese. First, we can talk about wanting an object. And second, we can talk about wanting to do something. Before we move on, there's one thing to keep in mind. Now, in English, when we talk about want, we can say, I want something, you want something, Joe wants something. But in Japanese, we can only really talk about ourselves wanting something. So we can only use first person. So, for example, we could say, I want a pony. But we couldn't say, Jerry wants a pony. So first, we're going to practice talking about wanting an object. When we do this in Japanese, we use hoshi. Now, just looking at it, you might have already realized that hoshi is an E adjective. So while want is a verb in English, it's actually an adjective in Japanese. So if I were to say, I want a new TV in Japanese, I would say, Watashi wa atarashii terebi ga hoshii desu. Let's take a quick look at that new particle I just introduced, ga. So ga is often referred to as the subject particle, which makes it a little bit confusing sometimes about where to use wa versus ga. One thing to note about ga is that it is often used to mark something's existence. So if you say there is something or there are some things, we would usually use ga for that. The important thing here, though, is that we can use ga to mark certain objects in a sentence. For example, objects of desire, things that we want. So we are going to use ga anytime we use hoshi. Moving on, we're going to try talking about wanting things in the past tense. So if I said, I wanted a dog, that would be, Watashi wa inu ga hoshikatta desu. Again, since this is an E adjective, we conjugate it the exact same way we would conjugate any other E adjective. If I were to say, I do not want ice cream, that would be, Watashi wa aisu krimu ga hoshiku nai desu. So that's how we talk about wanting or not wanting an object. Now we're going to talk about wanting to do something. So in order to do this in Japanese, we are going to take a verb stem and add tai to the end of it. Now, I don't believe we've learned about verb stems before, so let's talk a little bit about those. So verb stems are pretty simple. All you really need to do is conjugate a verb to non-past tense, and then you just remove mas from the end of it. So the verb taberu, to eat, if we were to conjugate that to non-past form, it would be tabemasu. If we take that mas off the end to get the verb stem, we just have tabe. Similarly, the non-past form of nomu, to drink, is nomimasu. If we take off the mas, we have nomi, which is the verb stem. The non-past form of suru, to do, is shimasu, and the verb stem is shi. The non-past form of kuru, to come, is kimasu, and the verb stem is ki. So let's look at a sentence. If I wanted to say, I want to buy a bicycle, that would be, Watashi wa jitensha o kaitai desu. You'll remember that kao means to buy in Japanese. The verb stem of that would be kai, and the tai form would be kaitai. And in case it wasn't clear, the word jitensha means bicycle. Now, something to note here is that when you conjugate a verb to tai form, it technically is an E adjective now. So we can conjugate it the exact same way that we would conjugate an E adjective. So if I said, I wanted to see a movie, that would be, Watashi wa eiga o mitakatta desu. And you'll remember miru means to see, so the tai form would be mitai. Past tense tai form would be mitakatta. And if we said, I did not want to go to school, that would be, Watashi wa gakko e ikitaku nakatta desu. And again, iku means to go. The Thai form of that would be ikitai. So now let's practice using what we've learned. If you need to go back over the things that we covered today, that's fine. Just rewind the video, pause where you need to, do whatever you need to do, and then come back to this part. So our first sentence is, I want tea. Watashi wa ocha ga hoshii desu. I want to make a cake. Watashi wa keiki o tsukuritai desu. I don't want to talk to the teacher. Watashi wa sensei to hanashitaku nai desu. I did not want juice. Watashi wa juice ga hoshiku nakatta desu. And that is all for this lesson. I'll see you in the next one. Ja, mata.